Good afternoon. If you all can hear me without a microphone, I'm going to try it without a mic. All right. I want to welcome you to this afternoon's special call meeting of the Oldham County Board of Education. It's November 28, 2022, and we are at the Oldham County Arts Center. Our first item of business is to approve an agenda. Any corrections or additions to the agenda?
No, at this time.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Motion made by Ms. Hundley and seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Thank you. I am going to ask Mr. McWilliams to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Since his hand is already in place.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you, everybody. And while I'm at it, I would like to thank Max for hosting us this afternoon. I feel like we're back in our old days, Max.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, may I say something?
Mr. Dodson.
Mr. McWilliams, y'all got a lot of activities coming up the next few weeks. Would you mind telling everybody what you got coming up?
Well, we sure do, yeah. The next 3 weekends to kick off Christmas and the holidays. So this coming weekend, 3 nights in a row of Great Expectations, which is our senior level play. Following weekend, Sunday, it's the 10th. We have our top level dance troupe doing a holiday spectacular dance routine that's fantastic. That's free of cost too. So love for you to come to that. That's 7 p.m. All of them are 7 p.m. And then right before we leave on break, 4 nights, Wednesday through Saturday, that's the 14th through 17th, I believe, of December. That is Christmas Carol. That's our senior level musical. So Christmas Carol, the musical version, if you've never seen it, it's absolutely fantastic and wonderful. So love to have there. All our 7 p.m. performances. We have other things going on too. Clay workshops, hot for the holidays. Just check out our website. Just Google Oldham County Arts Center and you'll see everything we got going on. Thanks a lot for mentioning. So love to have you.
Thank you, Mr. McWilliams. Thank
What
you,
other-
Mr. Dodson.
One other thing I'd like to mention. If you hadn't had a chance to see what they've done to the auditorium, before you leave, try to walk through there. You won't recognize it. Do what?
They're having rehearsals.
Oh,
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
they can duck in. You can duck in.
Just
Anybody that
open
wants
the
to
door.
see.
reading back that comment.
It's worth seeing.
Thank you, Mr. Dodson. I would like for the audience to welcome our newest board member, which is Mr. Joe Dennis. And let's move to the instructional session, Superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to invite Assistant Superintendent Dr. Dylan Smith to come forward and share an update with our KSA State Summit Day.
Good afternoon, Dr. Smith.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having Miss Whitaker is going to be joining me when she gets here in a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about both our KSA assessment data and also some targeted support and improvement plans that we have for schools in our district. The slide deck that I shared, you guys can see behind you, but you also should have it on your Chromebooks so that we can go through and just notice some really nice improvements that we've seen this last year in our testing data.
I need to ask a quick
Please.
question. Can the audience see the slide decks in
With me
spite
standing
of our
right.
heads?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Dr. Smith.
About a year and a half ago, I presented to the school board on something that we called the Math Curriculum Project. This is where we came to you and said, we recognize that math is an area that we want to focus on as a system. We have a lot of different schools working in different areas, and we want to try and organize and synchronize our work together. What you're going to see in the next couple of slides, some of the fruit of that labor. So if we could go to our next slide. What we first wanted to share was, what you're looking at is 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade for our proficiency scores. That's students who are in the proficient or distinguished range in 2021 versus this last spring in 2022. We had 5 schools over the last year and a half that have implemented the Bridges math curriculum. We have 4 schools that have used Eureka. And we've made a change in our Eureka program. Eureka offered a modified version of its curriculum that's called Eureka Math Squared. It basically takes the same foundation that Eureka is built upon and adds in some more discussion topics and discourse. And so whenever you are visiting a math classroom where Eureka is being taught, you're going to see kids talking about math a lot more. What you can see up here is between 2021 and 22, we saw an increase in the number of students who are in the proficient range in 3rd grade, a similar score holding steady at 4th, and an increase in the number in 5th grade. If we go one more. In our middle level, we started the last school year teaching the illustrative math curriculum, and we've also had 2 of our middle schools that have explored EdGEMS and a program that's called HMH Math. All of them are highly rated from Ed Reports. What you can see here is for our middle school, especially in 6th grade, but across all of our levels, we see some noticeable changes in the level of proficiency from 2021 to 2022. When I went back to the 2019 school year, because we've spent a lot of time, and I want to really compliment Dr. Radford for his focus on recovery in the core, which is a conversation that we've had many, many, many times, which is to say, how are we making sure that in core instruction we are meeting the needs of kids where they are and moving them forward? We are almost to the place we were prior to the pandemic. In elementary school, that was at 61% proficiency, and in middle school was 65% proficiency. So we've not regained all of the ground that we lost due to COVID, but we have made substantial gains at the middle school level. Go one more. The other thing that we focus on in terms of our academic performance is to look at our students who are performing in the lowest range. That's the novice range. One of the things that we look at in our CDIP, so our district improvement plan, is our strategies to decrease the number of students that are in the novice range. And so you can see here, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we see almost no change in 3rd grade. We see an increase in the number of novice students in 4th, and no change in 5th grade. So this is something that's caught our attention. So as we do our needs assessment as a district, and we think of the strategies that we're using to support our students who are struggling the most in math, this is an area that we're focusing. Can we go one more? Yes, go ahead.
Can I ask a question? real
Please.
quick? So if we go back up to elementary math on proficiency,
Yep.
We stayed the same,
For which one?
4th grade, sorry.
4th grade, that's right.
So where did these novice kids come from that we jumped up
So
5
you have
points?
novice, apprentice, proficient,
So
distinguished.
they are in that other
The apprentice range.
level. Gotcha.
So that's, and novice is a really wide range. When you look at the scale scores that make up a novice student, you have kids who are right on the edge of novice and apprentice, and you have kids that are much further into the novice range. And so if we go back one, so if you were looking at 4th grade here, that 5-point change could mean that it was students who were apprentice that became novice and slipped backward.
Okay.
And there's actually a trend, if you read in the newspaper or listen to the radio, you'll hear that for many students who are performing well pre-pandemic, they've made a lot of gains. Students who are impacted or struggling pre-pandemic were impacted the most as a result of COVID, remote learning, interrupted learning, et cetera. And you'll see some of that here in our novice numbers.
Dr. Smith,
Yeah,
on
please.
that first slide, the elementaries use the bridges and Eureka. Did you show him, is there any way to tell which did the best, Eureka or bridges?
So, talking with the elementary teachers, or the elementary principals, they have looked at their data as a group. I have also looked at the different programs side by side, but it really depends on the grade level in the school. It's not one program dramatically outperforms the other. It really is, it's more nuanced than that. And as with all things, it comes down to a lot of factors.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah, of course. Could we go, so middle school, we see a similar performance in terms of novice. We see more kids that are becoming novice, even with those changes in proficiency levels, up to 57% proficient. We see 4% more novice in 6th grade than they were the previous year. Slight increases in 7th, and then everything's about the same in 8th grade. I wanted to also share how the data are broken out by subgroups. So if we go one more slide forward. What you see here on the far right-hand column is all of the students brought together. So approximately 58% in elementary and middle school are in the proficient range, 57% in high school. You can see white students and their performance down the left-hand side, African American students are a smaller subgroup of students, so their numbers can shift pretty dramatically from year to year. Hispanic students are right in the upper 30s to low 40s. Students who are receiving free or reduced lunch, you can see here. And then special education is an area that as a teaching and learning team, we've paid particularly close attention. And especially at the middle school level, having 19% of students supported in special education in the proficient range to us is an area that needs our focused attention. And that's something that I will present next month on when we talk about our CDIP and the strategies and activities we're going to be doing to zero in on that population. And when Ms. Whitaker gets here, she'll be able to speak a little bit to that also for our TSI supports. Any other questions on math before we talk about reading? All right. So here you see our proficiency numbers for elementary reading. And again, in third grade, you see a noticeable change from 21 to 22 in terms of overall proficiency. These were students who were in first grade when we closed and went into NTI during the pandemic. And now in third grade, we're at about 56% who are proficient. A small growth in fourth, but then you'll notice in fifth, we see a decrease in the number of students who are proficient, 63 to 57. We'll see a similar thing if we go one slide forward to middle school. We're similar in sixth, similar in seventh, but we see a noticeable change in eighth grade reading scores. And going from 67% proficiency in 21 to 57 in 22 is one of the things when we did our needs assessment that caught our attention, and it's a focus area for us in our CDIP. And we'll talk about that next month also.
One thing I'd make the
Yeah,
point
please.
clear is if you look at fifth grade and eighth grade, when we started around March of 20, going back 2 years, that's also the group that has, when we started testing our students from a state testing perspective, it's not surprising to see, although we do have work to do, it's not surprising to see that those two grades are students who have been challenged with reading.
Thank you.
That is the truth. And then we also, if we go one slide forward, we wanted to, before we get to the breakout, here are our novice numbers. So if you look in third grade, we saw a pretty noticeable change from 2021 to 22. But in fourth grade, we're going the wrong direction. We have more novice students than proficient. More novice students from 21 to 22. In fifth grade, we see a slight decline, and if we go one slide forward, you see a similar pattern, only with eighth grade being an area that has caught our attention also. So in the same way we saw a decrease in the number of kids who are proficient, we also see the number of students who are novice increasing. So eighth grade is a special focus area that we'll be talking about next month. Breaking out these data, if we go one forward, similar to what we had looked at for math, you can see all students' proficiency levels down the far right-hand side. So we're at 58% for elementary school. Prior to the pandemic, we were at 66% proficient. So we're about 8 points off. For middle school, prior to the pandemic, we were at 73% proficiency. So that middle school reading is an area that we want to pay very careful attention to. And then you can notice just the different subgroups. They're not dramatically different than our math data, but we like to just present them there. Again, with a special focus on special education. Both in math and in reading, we see the 16 and 18% scores. Any questions on reading data? Yes?
I look at the numbers, and with the Hispanic African Americans, what are we doing to train our teachers of the trauma that may be part of that, or the way they learn growing up in a different environment? I know our teachers are prominently white, so what are we doing to help the teachers be able to identify that and
That's a good question. I think that the training and support that we offer varies by school. And so in each of our schools, school improvement plans, depending on the population of student that's being served, that school might be taking a slightly different approach. So for example, at LaGrange Elementary School, where you would have a larger Hispanic population, that school's approach to supporting students and also English language learners might look very different than a Goshen Elementary School that has a different student
all right,
population.
let's take LaGrange.
Okay?
So LaGrange has made great improvements in reading, have they not?
Yes?
Is there a way to capture what that teachers are doing you take it to the other parts, say Oldham County Middle, where
Yes.
they may be deficient?
Yes, I think that that's absolutely a possibility. What we have tried to do, if I think over the last year, is to bring our teachers together across schools to be able to collaborate together and learn from each other. That has been one strategy that has been helpful. I think also the work that our coaches do at each of our elementary schools in supporting teachers, and really also teachers in different stages of their professional career. Newer teachers, or for us, teachers who have been emergency certified, need a different level of support to understand how to support the kids in their class than a veteran teacher who may have worked with students of these different demographic groups many times in the past. So we try to customize the support based on what we're seeing on each of the campuses. We don't have a one-size-fits-all approach. But I think that your suggestion, your question is a good one, and it's one that we can address through our CEDO.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Yep.
Could you break those last four categories on what schools they are past the white category? The African American, Hispanic poverty, and special.
Could I break it out for you by school?
Please. Sorry.
I could, if I could compile those data and make them available to you. Absolutely.
The whole board.
Yeah, to everyone on the school, certainly.
Or top three if you're going to do that.
Yeah, I would be happy to take the same breakouts that you see here and break them down by school, if that would be something that you're interested in seeing. I just didn't prepare that for this presentation, but I think those are good. Those are good suggestions. If we go to our next slide, so what we have here are our science scores and also our writing scores. Science is assessed in 4th grade, 7th grade, and 11th grade. You can see our proficiency numbers are very low. And I would say that the science scores that we saw in 11th grade were particularly surprising in that 21% of our 11th graders being proficient in science seemed almost like an outlier in terms of what we would have expected to see. In terms of elementary and middle school, looking back prior to the pandemic, we were at 41% in elementary school and 38% in middle school. So they're slightly off, but not dramatically different than what we saw before. And there are different, we recently had a meeting with all of our elementary principals at our level meeting, and we brought up some possible resources that we want to put in the hands of our teachers so that they would have some tools that they might use and to pilot this coming year, looking at our science curriculum in 4th grade specifically. Science is, in the same way that math a year and a half ago was a focus area for us, science is our next focus area because we've seen this level of proficiency and we realize our students have the potential to do much, much better than what we're seeing. So that's something that we're going to be looking at. In terms of our writing data, you can see that we're about in the 50% proficiency range. Elementary in 2019 was 60.7% proficient, middle school 39.4, high school 64.9. So we've made some gains, but we have more to do in terms of writing.
Dr. Smith, this is a good opportunity for me to remind everybody that this is a summative
Absolutely.
assessment. We're not looking at individual schools at the moment. We
Correct.
will have an opportunity to dig into that data, and then we will have an opportunity at the site-based council visits to
Yes.
discuss school by school what's going on in those schools.
Yes,
So
that's an excellent point.
If everybody could just be aware of those two things. Thank you.
Of course. All right, so if we go to the next slide. So now TSI status is a targeted support that we are giving to individual schools that have received a designation from the state based on the performance of one subgroup of students. And we have 4 schools in our district who are in TSI status for special education. And so what we wanted to do is give the school board an update on the work that we're doing to address that and support that for those campuses. As you saw in our proficiency numbers in reading and math, our student support in special education struggled in terms of their performance and their proficiency level. One of the things that we started doing this last summer before these scores came out was we began a book study with all of our principals. This was a text that's called Great Instruction, Great Achievement. It came from the oh, hey Nikki.
Sorry, I didn't think you knew I was here.
I did not know you were here. Let me step aside and I'll let you address the school.
Hi, good evening. I apologize. I went to Arvin, even though I knew it was here, and I pulled in, I was like, oh shoot, so I apologize for being a little bit late.
Been there and done that.
Yes. So Dr. Smith had started talking to you all about what the work we've started around our TSI schools, and I'll pick up from there. So in looking at the TSI specific schools, at a recent admin staff meeting, well, let me go back to that. This was TSI specific schools. We had them take their KSA data and look for those students that were scoring in the novice range, because we know we always want to be looking to reduce our number of novice, and that's where our gap exists. So as buildings, they went through each student with a disability in that tested area and found the students that were close to scoring in the apprentice range. And so they've identified those students and taken that data back with them to the school, where they're going to use MAP data to monitor those students' progress along with classroom data and assessment data to make sure that we are truly drilling down to that individual child in that area to help improve their performance. Then we had each principal go through their CSIP plans. So each year, as Dr. Smith said, we have a gap goal on the CSIP. And so this year we asked them to truly look at those goals. Have we been putting the same goals in place year after year? And if we have, does the data show that it's working? What tells us if it is working or if it's not? If it's working, keep going. If the data is showing that it's not working, what should we do differently? There are also instances where we had them truly analyze and look at, have we done the same work, but maybe not with fidelity? And we need to put in some extra measures to make sure we're implementing what we say we're implementing with fidelity. And so just truly asking them to analyze where we've been as a district and where we need to go to support our students with disabilities. We also asked them to identify any help or resources that they would need to implement those strategies as well. Let's see, try the clicker, sorry.
I don't think you did.
Ask for next.
Okay, sorry.
Exchange your clicker.
So as Dr. Smith started talking about this summer, we started the work of Great Instruction, Great Achievement, a book by John O'Connor. And basically, John O'Connor's whole premise is if we want to increase the achievement of students with disabilities, we must provide great instruction. And so that sounds really simple, right? Like great instruction, okay. Well, in that reading, he outlines what does great instruction look like. And so that's guided by the performance standards. It's rigorous with research or evidence-based practices. It's engaging and exciting. Assessed continually to guide further instruction, and then tailored and flexible groups. And so as a district this summer, we started really diving into what does it mean to be tailored and flexible groups? Because when we look at our model, 82% of our students with disabilities, next slide please, are educated in the general education setting. So 80% or more of their day. So 82% of our students with disabilities spend 80% or more of their day in the general education setting. So co-teaching is where we have the opportunity to move the needle with our students. And so we ask our principals to go through and collect baseline data. What are we doing when we're co-teaching? What does that look like? And so with co-teaching, there are 6 models that are outlined on the slide. Those whole group models are 1 teach, 1 assist, 1 teach, 1 observe, and then team teaching. The small group models, or with the great instruction work, what we like to refer to as tailored flexible group models, are station teaching, parallel teaching, and alternative teaching. So each of those diagrams at the bottom give you a quick visual about what that looks like. So are the students split into groups? Are they whole group? What are the 2 teachers doing? And so we collected that data, and along with that, we also had each principal work with their staff in the building to do a self-analysis of our master scheduling practices. Because in order for co-teaching to have the greatest impact, our teachers have to be set up for success. And so some of the things that we were looking at is, are we scheduling our ECS students first? Are we making sure that the services they need are put on the master schedule first? Are we aligning our teachers and pairing them to have the greatest success with our co-teaching teams? Those are just a couple of the things that we ask them to look at in that self-analysis to, again, guide our next steps. Know where our areas of growth are, also know where our areas of success are to be able to move forward. So the next slide is what that baseline data showed us. So if you look at the top portion of that circle, the pink, the light blue, and the dark blue, those are all our whole group instruction models. So 50% of the observations showed that our teachers were using a whole group model. So that one teach, one assist, one teach, one observe, or that team teaching model. The other 50%, again, this is district-wide, elementary through high, we're using those small group instructional models. So alternative teaching, staging teaching, and parallel teaching. So that's what that snapshot in time, again, each principal just did 4 observations in their building, about 15 minutes each, just to see where we were. And so in classrooms where there are 2 teachers, we want that instruction to look drastically different than a classroom with 1 teacher. And so when you're looking at the one teach, one observe, one teach, one assist, and that team teaching, those models don't give us that drastic difference between those 2 types of classrooms. And then on the next slide, this is support that is for our TSI designated schools. So we will begin monthly co-taught classroom visits with the building principal. We will then look at the data we've collected from those individual classrooms and debrief as a group. And in that debrief, develop the meeting agenda for the TSI building committees that they are forming now. So each of those building committees is going to consist of the principal, 1 AP, 2 ECS teachers, 2 general education teachers that co-teach, and the building instructional coach. Because again, the meat of this work is happening in the general education classroom. So we've got to have all levels of support in those committees. We're going to be reviewing classroom assessment data, individual progress data for students, and then map data, and also that classroom observation data that we took with the principal when visiting the co-taught classrooms of the building.
Thank you, Ms. Whitaker. Let me ask if board members have questions on this portion of the report. I think we're good. Oh, Ms.
Can you say
Unley.
which 4 schools they are?
Yes, so LaGrange Elementary, I guess, is that okay? Sorry. LaGrange Elementary, South Oldham Middle, Oldham County Middle, and Oldham County High School.
One thing I'd like to share with the board, and thank you, Ms. Whitaker and Dr. Smith, for sharing. I appreciate each of our schools came together well before the data was ever even, before we got to this point and really dug into looking at data and how we could be, how each of their schools could move forward, thinking about student needs, not just our 4 TSI schools across the board. We know that classroom instruction, 2nd grade, 5th grade math is really, really important, and we also know that we can elevate our students with disabilities, that we can start to begin to close gaps across our school district. So really compliment our principals and our district leaders working together to support our students.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Radford. I too wanted to say that I know how hard our district people are working. Administrators, teachers, everybody has been full on board with closing the gaps and raising achievement since we had some learning loss occur due to the pandemic. Keto.
So I've got a question. I was wondering if we could somehow, some way, be a little bit more transparent about this data on our website for when new families come into the school district. They're looking at specific items of what school works best for their kids, especially the minority portion of it, and the 4 categories behind there. I think it'd be valuable data for our parents, but how much can we share may take away from other schools, which would lead to overcrowding and and so forth. So, but I think it's worth a look in the future to put something on our website.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. We are going to let our communications director work with us to perhaps tweak what's on our website.
I do think, Patrick, on the school report cards, if I'm not mistaken, I think the demographic fact breakdown for each school is
Yes.
on the school report card.
Yes.
But some of the scores as well, of
Oh,
what
yeah,
the
I
ranking
know the scores
process.
are, but I know the demographics are.
Right.
Can you add to that, Dr. Smith? Or you can stay where you are, sir.
Oh, I need the microphone.
Or you can.
I'll say microphone.
So I don't think they're out there. I asked Larry just a minute ago. and-
So if you log into the school report cards page, it'll show the breakouts by subgroup. But if there is anything that is missing on there, I'll go check right now also, but if there's anything that's missing, we can make those data available. But usually you can get the overview of each of the schools, and you can look at it as a table, which will show you male students versus female students in each of the grade levels.
Is that updated annually after the site news meeting?
Yeah, it updates when the data is released from the state. Publicly, that's right. Once the embargo ends, so for us, that was the end of October, it then came to the website, the Kentucky School Report Card website, and you can find it there.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. Superintendent, we are ready, sir, for the treasurer's report.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to invite Ms. Anderson to come forward and give a treasurer's report to the board.
I'm going to remind everybody that we do have a new board member, and the acronyms are challenging enough for the old board members. If you all could slow down a little bit, TSI is probably a new, we just are throwing a lot of acronyms at you. And we also have an acronym list, Mr. Dennis, that we will make available to you.
That's a great thing.
Welcome, Ms. Anderson.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is the treasurer's report for the month of October, and this section is about the cash. We've got cash listed here, our beginning balance at a total of $25.4, almost $5 million. Our receipts and disbursements, with disbursements exceeding receipts at this time, and an ending balance of $21.9 million. In the next section, we've got bonded construction funds. Most of these projects have been completed. We're just waiting for another project to assign this money to. We do have one active one, that's East Oldham Middle. That's the last line in there, showing disbursements of $176,000. So we got $5.5 million in current bonded construction. Yep.
Was anywhere, I don't know, would be under bills and claims or what have you, you had to give 25 million back to the state. Is that going to show in our treasurer's
It
report?
is not a cash transaction. That money is part of the math allocation that happens before we even get the money.
See, that's what bothers me. The paperwork shows that we had it, but we never got it to give it back. And
Well, they would
and
be
the public
fighting with
don't know
districts
that.
to give it back. If they gave it to me, I would take a long time to give them that money back. I'd collect some interest on it, and so would all the other, think about Jefferson County, the amount of interest that they would. So the state prefers, I'm sure it's legislated this way, but they prefer to get the interest on it as well, rather than
The only thing
fight
I'm
with us.
concerned about is, and we found that out in the last few months, a lot of the public don't realize that we gave it back.
didn't
Well,
give it
technically,
back,
they took- we didn't get it,
It's
but
shorted
technically,
to
it was
us.
our money, and they didn't give it to us, put it that way. And the public don't know that because they think we got more money than we have when they see us up front. And I'm just wondering if there's any way we can put it in here to show that money was assigned to us, but we never got it.
The one item that I might be able to do would be to show that SEEK report that shows the calculation where we get our $4,000 or $4,100 now per student, and then it goes through all the calculations of the extra money that we get for each of the special needs or special populations, and then it pulls out various different monies, and it shows the nickels and the capital outlay, all the math that gets us to the money that the state gives us.
You know, here, last few months, I've been defending our budget because they said, you got more money than y'all showing. No, we don't have more money we're showing. And I just wonder somewhere we can put in there where people will understand it.
The budget is set at the amount that the state gives us, which is net,
All right, let's.
because I have no way to track that every month.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
And the final section is investments. This represents activity for the month of September. There's a 1-month lag on this due when we get the financial statements, so 17 million in that section. And if we turn the page, you can see this breakdown again. When I refer to governmental cash from that first page, Mr. Dennis, you can see that the cash balance down at that next section, we can scroll just a tad bit. We've got each of our funds. You and I discussed general fund. We were talking about special revenue fund, which is where our grants are. We were talking about the building and capital outlay funds, which are where our construction money originates, and then the construction fund where we actually have projects that we're spending money on, and then these other bonded projects that I also referenced on the first page. So this is the detail of each of our cash accounts. If we turn the page, we have our historical actual comparison report of selected accounts. In our general fund revenue, you can see the trend on that first line from $15.9 million to today at $18.169. So not a lot of change between 2021 and 22, but going into 23, we've got a $1.4 million increase in our revenue compared to prior year. On the next line, we show our salaries and benefits because that is the bulk of our costs in the general fund, and we're showing about a $400,000 increase in that. If we skip down to the next section, the general revenue selected accounts, we are pretty much on target for each of these for this time period. November will be our big month for the property tax collection. If we look at the motor vehicle tax collection, that is a monthly amount, and we are up $400,000 over the prior year. Utility taxes are up $100,000 over the prior year to date. And then our SEEK program, which has got the additional money for the guaranteed base and for transportation and a couple other items, we are up so far $650,000 from the prior year. If we compare that, that's about $1.2 million, and then there's another $250,000 that I'll show you on the next page where the daycares have transferred money over into the general fund for spending. Next section, capital outlay. On target for that. Building fund revenues also on target for where we are at this point. So if we turn the page, this will give us the revenue in detail for the general fund. You can see those big dollar amounts in there. The SEEK program about in the middle, 12 million all the way over to 13 million, expecting $40.8 million on that one. Property tax, oops, I should have started up there. Property tax is kind of small right now, but that's the $42.2 million is what we've budgeted. And then there's another item in there, if you look down that budget column on the far right, $32.7 million. This is on behalf. This is money that the state pays on our behalf for certain items. It's primarily benefits for employees, but there's also some debt service in there. There's some payments on technology, and that we will not see until year end. It's not really revenue to us because they also record the expense at the same time, so it's an in and an out, and it doesn't really mean much in the whole scheme of things. So if you look at that total budget of $128 million, we're looking at it split in thirds as far as the income that comes in. We've got property tax, we've got SEEK, and then we've got this on behalf, which really does not contribute to revenue that we're able to use. Okay, so let's turn the page on that, please. One more. So this is a year-to-date budget report. We've kind of been playing with the reports that I show you this year. Munis is still not able to produce the report that I like so much. That gives it to us in a trend by character. This will give us salaries and benefits, which I wanted to pull out for you, but this will show you our revised budget, our year-to-date expenses, and our month-to-date expenses. So this is what we have spent in the month of October and October year-to-date. If we compare this to prior year-to-date, these costs, prior year were up 0.7%, and this year they're up 2.3%. So we did 3% merit plus step, which is about 4%, so we're kind of being safe because we've been unable to hire in certain positions. You know, it's not a complete offset because we're seeing a lot of overtime and other payments to compensate for that. But this section will show you those categories for the month. And then if we'll go ahead and skip ahead to page 32, if you could. We are able to get part of the report by in a trend format. A little bit more, page 32. I just can't get the salaries. So here's what you guys are used to seeing. This gives us 4 years of activity and our budget. So on this first section, we're looking at professional and technical services. We've got an increase in the education consultant, that 0322 account. This is $10,000 to Bellarmine for reading recovery and $27,000 to Confucius teachers. If we go down a little farther, 0343, we've got legal services, which are higher than normal. This is external versus internal board counsel that we're paying. The following line item, we've got financial services. This is our quarterly Stockyards Bank fees for their services. And following that, we've got 0345 medical services. This is another area where our costs are going up because we do not have staff. A lot of this cost is related to ECS area where they're having to hire special teachers in PT, OT, and ST. That final line item, other technical services, we've got $50,000, and this is part of our wireless refresh project from IT. The next section, we've got property services. We continue to see high expenses in the water and sewage area. And we go down a little farther, we've got on the next page, 0436S. This is repairs and maintenance, safety and security. This is our Delta contractor who takes care of our electronic security. Let's see, we've got a number of plumbing contracts that we're taking care of this time, and we've got an automotive lift for Arvin that was installed. If we turn the page 34, you can see at the top we've got significant increases in our insurances. We have talked about that previously this year. The nice thing is that it is being offset by reductions in our online network, so our internet and Wi-Fi. All right, to page 36. Okay, so one of the things that you can see here, we've talked about this before too, you've got a number of these areas where we've got zero expenses. This year we have broken out a lot of the teaching supplies so that the individual schools can see how expenses are being spent. They can track it. So you can see we've got STEM, we've got speech, we've got first grade, second grade, third grade. So it helps them track those costs, and it also lends a bit of transparency to the board to see where supplies are being spent rather than just general. We've actually got detail that shows by program where that's being spent. We're also seeing electricity, that big number there, $872,000, 0622, a significant increase from prior years. I think that's going to continue. It's actually up 30% from fiscal 20. We're also seeing significant increases in our gasoline and diesel, just like you all are seeing at home. We're seeing for our buses. The next section are 0644 on textbooks. We're seeing a significant increase. This is primarily for math workbooks, as Dylan was discussing. And then 0646, we've got tests. These are the Gates COGAT tests. So that's showing a significant increase over prior year. I think that's just a timing issue on that one. On the following page, you can see our big expense there in current year is $160,000 for the interactive flat panel devices. While that project is continuing, we are seeing some influx with the internet and the wireless structure. So you can see that in the next section where we've got significant expenses down there under IT fiber, IT network. Also under land and property, that $46,000 is tennis courts at North Oldham High. We've got significant machinery that's going for grounds and maintenance. And we're also seeing our vehicles. These are primarily the buses. These are last year's buses that did not come in on time. Of that $562,000, 519 of that is last year's buses. And we've also got a truck in there for maintenance. If you look at the very final line, other CapEx, that is North Oldham High School batting cages at $148,000.
Ms. Anderson, one thing to point out for our board is that in the next few years, you'll see an increase, you'll see a number of bus replacement cycles that we have to really try to make sure that we maintain a good fleet. So we've got a plan in place, so you'll see bus purchases that will stay at a particular higher number than, so we can stay on schedule. If we delay that, it just compounds a particular problem. And we're poised to be able to do that, but just need to be aware.
Thank you. And then the good news is on this next page, Trey, who's always finding ways to save us money, has this 0899R tech rebate. So we have money coming back to us of $314,000 to offset some technology purchases. So that is good news.
Nice.
And again, here at the bottom, if I get the totals on this, we're looking at last year an 11% increase in costs, and this year we're looking at a 20% increase in costs. So that's something that we need to be really cognizant of in order to keep our fund balances where we want those to be. All right, if we go to the next page. One more. This is our summary of bonding potential. This has not changed since 6/27. And on the following page, we begin our balance sheets by fund. And then the next section will be our income statements also by fund. And that concludes the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Let me ask if board members have any questions. Mr. Kehoe?
Ms. Anderson, you said the daycare funding returned $200,000 or 200 plus? The daycare funding?
Yes, they
returned-
transfer money from their daycare into their,
Could you explain to me about the federal, was there federal funding involved for last year for the cost of daycare? So we got, in addition to the revenue, we got an additional pot of money as well?
yes. So in addition to the fees that are charged at the school that are paid for by parents, we are also getting a grant from the federal government to cover primarily salaries, but other COVID-related costs. So we've had that for really since the beginning of COVID, so 21, 22, this will go on into 23 and perhaps into 24.
So was all that money returned, or was there some kept at the schools for the daycares?
There is money kept at the schools for the daycares as well. And then we're getting ready to send out staffing bills. So the schools have the option to pay for additional teachers or administrators. And they will pay us to cover that cost.
Individual. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. Other questions at this time? So I need a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Made by Mr. Kehoe, seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor?
Abstain.
And that will be, Mr. Patrick, that is 4 with 1 abstention. Let's move on to bills and claims, ma'am.
All right, on page 113, here we go. We have, since the last time we met, 1,680 invoices for a total of $10,315,000. The general operating has spent the bulk of that, $9.5 million. We also have grant and spending at almost $500,000, and food service at almost $400,000. And following this, on the next pages, you will see the individual invoices with some descriptions as well. And that concludes bills and claims.
It is a very detailed report. Questions or comments, board members? Motion to approve bills and claims, please. Made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor, and that's 4 with 1 abstention. And this brings us up to approval of some minutes. And we have one set of minutes to approve, board members. The minutes from the regular board meeting from October 17th. Any corrections or additions? Motion to approve, please. Made by Mr. Kehoe, seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor? And that's, I'm going to ask you to abstain, Mr. Dennis, since you weren't here. Gotcha. So that'll be 4 with 1 abstention. I know you knew that. Superintendent, how about your report to the Board of Personnel Actions, sir?
Yes, just ask the board to review personnel actions as presented in your packet.
We have one long-term friend that I've known for a long time on the North Campus. Mark Eaton is retiring, so just wanted to make note of that. Anything else, board members? All right. Why don't we? We're going to move to the recognition portion of this meeting, and the superintendent will handle our recognitions, and I'm going to ask Ms. Hundley to please assist the superintendent.
Now, see if I can get this to work. All right. Okay, North Oldham High School senior named the 2022 WLKY Bell Award Youth Service Honor recipient. Each year, the WLKY Bell Awards recognizes 10 adults and 2 youths in the community who demonstrate the spirit of Louisville through exceptional volunteer efforts which inspire our community. This year, Kasim Hyder, a senior at North Oldham High School, received this prestigious award. Kasim volunteers with World Sight, an international organization that treats curable eye diseases for the free in third world countries. He has participated in 4 mission trips to Iraq with this organization, his first taking place while he was still in elementary school. Kasim also founded a tutoring program for struggling youth within the refugee community in Louisville, an effort that grew to over 100 students. Upon receiving certification, he went on to establish Share the Light Incorporated, an online tutoring service that now reaches countless students in 8 different states. Attending North Oldham High School, Kasim has been class president for his freshman, sophomore, and junior years. He started the school's first ever multicultural club, and he was admitted into the Governor's Scholar Program, Governor's School for Entrepreneurs, and Governor's School for the Arts. Wow, that's awesome. As part of the 2022 Bell Award, Kasim will receive a $1,000 scholarship award from the Brown-Forman Corporation. Please help me recognize Kasim. Well done. Give it a round of applause. close.
Almost.
That concludes our recognition.
Good try. Seeing, congratulations. I'm just speechless. You're an amazing young man. We look forward to seeing you at graduation and learning about your future plans. Thank you so much for joining us. You are welcome to stay for the rest of the exciting meeting, but it's not required. Oh! So disappointed. Thank you. All right, Superintendent, let's move along. Okay, can you just hold that thought? Hold that thought, and we come now to the consent agenda portion of the meeting. Are there any questions at this time on any individual items? Can we, Superintendent, what's your recommendation, sir?
Recommend to approve.
So let's approve the consent
I
agenda.
have a quick question.
Yes.
Is that closure C?
Surplus?
Yes.
Yes. Closure C, surplus property.
Yes. Why aren't we donating those books from East Old Middle School to a charity instead of, I think it says recycling? 431 bucks.
Mr. Dees?
Yeah, so we, anything we have to surplus it either as recycled or we have to sell it on the auction website since it's government property. And then from that point, recycled doesn't always mean it's just being thrown away. We can do different things with it. When we sell them, you'll see them listed on, and they'll go on a website. So there's a difference between selling and recycling on those pieces. So sometimes they go back to kids, sometimes they go into teachers' classrooms. It's just different things there should be two categories when you see surplus on that.
Thank you, sir.
And that is because we have to follow state law. Thank you, Mr. Dennis. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please? Motion made by Mr. Dodson and seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor, and that's 5-0. Thank you, everybody. We're going to take a quick 3-minute break, audience. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to one of my favorite portions of the agenda, which is our student showcase. And I am going to invite Harmony Elementary to join us. Hello. Well, we can barely see them. Whatever you need to do. I would ask them to use the microphone. Awesome t-shirts.
You get right to the microphone.
Now I can see the t-shirts, Harmony. Awesome.
Good evening. My name is Annie and this is Harper. We're members of the Harmony Student Council and we lead the monthly morning meetings at school. We are here tonight to tell you about the PAC system that we have started this year at Harmony and all the amazing things it's doing for our school community. In addition to Ms. Green, we are so thankful to our PTA for supporting this idea. They purchased a PAC shirt for each of our staff members and students, and it's even in the PAC color. Now, when we walk in the halls and we see our PAC color, we wave and we're so excited. Here's a little introduction from our principal, Ms. Green.
I'm going to let these ladies do most of the talking because they're amazing. They are going to fill you in about what we're calling our PAC system. And those of you who are familiar with Harry Potter, you are familiar with the house system. And there are many schools that use that house system. We call it a PAC system because we are Harmony Huskies and we travel in packs. But the whole purpose behind our PAC system being implemented this year was to build community across our school. The pandemic had a big impact on us being able to gather and really feeling like a school community, not only with our students, but with our staff. So that was our big push this year, was to develop that sense of community throughout a pretty big school. So the ladies are going to fill us in a little bit more about it.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Green.
Our PACs not only bring our school together, they also bring Harmony and the community together. We have some upcoming community service projects linked to PAC competitions that we are really excited about. For example, this month we have a canned food drive to support families in our community who are in need. In addition to PAC competitions, we will spend some of our PAC partnership days to spread kindness in the community. In February, we will work together to make Valentines to send to kids at Cozaire, and in April, we will work together on an Earth Day activity to take care of our space on Earth. It's nice to know that even though we are young, we can make an impact on our community. The PAC system has also made our monthly morning meetings more meaningful and inclusive. Each month, we celebrate all of the accomplishments from the previous month. Our Huskies earn blue paws for being respectful, responsible, and safe in common areas or school. And when a class gets 10 blue paws, the class earns a gold paw. Each month, every class submits their total gold paws for a friendly competition to see which PAC has the most and earns the monthly PAC Pride event. PACs love this event because they get to have extra recess with their PAC members while our teachers get some extra planning time. It's a win for everyone. Watching the big Huskies find their little Husky partners is so cute. We love our monthly morning meetings because they are student-led by our student council. We get to celebrate students who have been nominated by their teachers to earn a Positively Awesome Award in any extracurricular activities that are performed. And all of the hard work that is happening throughout the school, like 5th grade culture boxes and 3rd grade wax museum. We see pictures and videos of these events, the whole school, so that the whole school can feel like they are a part of them. The PAC system has also created a schedule for PAC partnerships. Each class is partnered with another class in their PAC and will meet once a month on any given activity. They started the year off by interviewing their buddies to get to know them better. Partnerships have read together, they've made cards together, and even had board game fun together. We all hope to win the PAC Pride event so we can hang out with our buddies outside too. Now, let's take a look at this short video to see our PACs in action. Get ready to meet Klee Kai, Alaskan, Siberian, Agouti, and Akita PACs.
Because it has helped me build community with teachers that aren't necessarily on my team. One thing I love that we did was come together and create our Klee Kai chant. It really felt like a community, it really felt like a family when we were creating that together. And another thing that I love about the PAC system is when I'm in the hallway or when I'm working carpool and it's wear your PAC Pride shirts. I love seeing the students that are wearing the same color shirts as I am, and it makes us connect with one another, and we have such a special moment when we realize that we're in the same PAC as each other. That is why I love our PAC system.
Hey, what PAC are you in?
I'm in the Akita PAC.
And you're in the Akita PAC, and what is your favorite thing about being in the Akita PAC?
Probably my brother being in the same PAC as me.
Oh, I love that. What do you get to do with your brother in the same PAC?
When we have like our extra recess, he's in the same PAC, so I get to have extra recess and see him.
So has your PAC won?
Yes.
Yeah, how were you feeling when you found out that your PAC was the most respectful, responsible, and safe?
I was so happy because I get to see my brother at recess.
That is so sweet. Thanks for sharing.
With your PAC partners.
We have gone outside and done chalk. we've read together, and we did interview questions.
I love our pack pride system that we have going on at Harmony. It's really great to help me connect with other teachers, and it automatically builds a sense of camaraderie. We have so many new teachers this year at Harmony that it's really difficult to get to know them outside of that, and this pack pride leadership has really given me a chance to reach out of not only my grade level, but just kind of get to know other teachers. It's fantastic. Come on, let's have some fun.
I just feel very proud that my pack and all my teammates have won the award for being respectful, responsible, and safe.
Okay, so you're in the Agouti pack. Show me what you looked like when it was announced that your pack had been the most respectful, responsible, and safe. How are you feeling?
Really excited and happy.
That's awesome. I'm so proud of you and your pack. What's been your favorite thing about being a part of a pack?
We get to hang out with our 5th grade buddies.
Brave like a bear, heart like a lion, fiercely loyal, Akita!
Okay, Ms. Berger, how has the pack system impacted our school?
I think it has really encouraged our students to build a community within the school. Teaching younger students in 2nd grade, they really look forward to getting to work with their pack buddies who are 4th graders. They really look up to them, and when they see them in the hallway, they're always excited to get to give a silent wave hello. And then when they see them at our monthly meetings, it's always really exciting, and it's just felt like it's really brought the school together and just really built a sense of community.
Why do you like being a part of a pack?
I'm just glad I can be a big helper.
Wow. Join me in congratulating
Thank you to Miss Cooper for making that awesome video for us to watch. Also, we hope you have been able to see just how incredible this PAC system is and how it has brought together our learning community. Thanks for letting us share with you.
Harper, don't leave me yet. Let me ask if board members have any questions for you all. Questions, comments? Ms. Huntley?
What's your favorite thing to do with your younger pack partner?
Well, she got to read to me, and I really liked seeing how she got to read and how she expressed her reading.
Excellent.
What about you? What's your favorite thing?
It's just fun, having a little kid look up to you, and it's just.
What grade are you in, Annie and Harper?
We're in 5th grade.
You're 5th graders. Oh, man, you did an awesome job. And what pack are you in?
I'm in Klekai, and I'm in Siberian.
Okay, excellent.
We are so proud of you all. Is this the first year Harmony has had Pack Pride in place?
Yes.
Well, we are so excited and grateful for your participation tonight and for being here at this board meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, see you at Harmony. And that's why board members do what they do, the amazing young people. Families, again, if you need to leave us, feel free to be able to do that, but we're going to proceed with our meeting. Superintendent, we're ready for report number 1, sir.
Yes, so in your packet, in your board packet, consider report on policy revision for FY23. As presented, you will see that meetings of the board, we had a first reading on a policy to comply with legislative and case law changes to public expression guidance, adopting the KSBA recommendation for public expression. So KSBA has recommended a public expression policy that is for all districts in the state of Kentucky to be used and to be adopted by boards of education. So this gives us a baseline in which to operate from across the state that all districts are using.
Thank you, Superintendent. And I think this might be our opportunity to introduce Mr. Eric Ferris, who is our current legal counsel. And we thank Mr. Ferris for his wise counsel and guidance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Questions or comments at this time, board members? Mr. Dennis.
Does the last line of item number 4 apply to item number 2, 3, and 5, or is it just number 4?
Let's find our places here.
I missed your comment, Mr. Dennis, were you at?
So last line of item number 4.
Okay.
Does it apply to 2, 3, and 5, or just number 4?
Meetings open to the public, is that your
Under
section?
speakers.
Under
Speakers.
You're talking about that the board has the final, the board as a whole has the
Overall.
final say. Yeah, as I read that, that clarifies paragraph 4 only, and specifically as to time limits, the conduct of the speakers and maintaining orders and so forth. This policy is generally drafted in a less is more type of approach. You know, it is consistent with what we're seeing across the state. And you know, I don't have to tell you all, but in Oldham, I think is the only district that doesn't have the KSB policy service, which isn't to say that your policies are not good policies, because they have been well researched and well drafted and have stood the test of time. But some legislative, as the superintendent mentioned, some legislative priority was placed on this. KSBA is following, on behalf of all of the member districts, 171, thank you, member districts. They're following what the current status of the law is on it. And so what this does is it gives more discretion to the local board on these, with working within the guidelines of the state statute. Typically, it is the chair's discretion on how the meeting is conducted, but it does give the board as a whole the opportunity to weigh in and you know, support the chair in matters.
To item number 4, it gives the board a weigh in.
That's right, yes.
Public expression.
Yeah, the portion where the you know, relevance of the topic, time limits, those matters there, yes. That's a long answer, typical for a lawyer.
We are.
I said that's a long answer, typical.
Give me the answer.
From a legal counsel. Thank you, Mr. Ferris. We are, the only district now in Kentucky that has not utilized the Kentucky School Board Association policies, which they have formulated, and those have stood the test of time. So we are now
going to be in the process of adopting more of the KSBA policies?
Call it a personal preference from having used them for 40 years, but it is consistently good. It's well researched. It's based upon current case law. It's modified timely as cases and legislative changes are made. And it's not cast in stone. Each district has its opportunity to tweak it, to meet your specific needs.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Kehoe?
One comment, I just hope that the volunteer policy is looked at in the future, which would allow parents to be a little bit more active with equipment to help the schools out.
As we move through reviewing our policies, that's a priority for Mr. Kehoe. We will get there.
Understood.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Are there any other questions on this superintendent report?
We add the last line of number 4 to number 2.
Can you be more specific, Mr. Dennis?
Can we add the board as a whole has a final decision as to the appropriateness of all the rulings to the end of exception, or number 2 under titled exception?
Well, that is certainly something we can consider, and we are not approving this policy right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is a superintendent report.
Sorry, I apologize.
So we'll just take note of that, and then if there's additional support to do that, board members can chime in.
All right.
You have a month to review this superintendent report, I think. Are we taking action on this tonight? We are taking action on this tonight. Is there any support, board members, for that suggestion?
What does our attorney think? Because I don't see where it would hurt them to.
Mr. Ferris, I'm going to ask you to return to the podium since this is an item that we are going to be asked to take action on.
Sure. So the question from Mr. Dennis is, could that also apply? And you certainly have the discretion to include that sentence in paragraph 2.
Yes.
Yes, the board has that discretion. This is suggested wording, and you can make that addition.
Any further thoughts, board members?
I would not have a problem after reading that sense of moving it. Because all it deals with the time limit. It's not saying we can't do something, it's saying we got more discretion to do what we need to do.
Well, I think he's looking to add it, not move it necessarily. He wants it also on number 2.
Well, I agree, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Keeping it where it's at and just copying it, pasting it up there at number 2.
Right.
So, let me just clarify, Mr. Dennis. You are asking that the whole board has to agree, as opposed to the chairperson can impose conditions upon attendance at a given meeting only if such conditions require the maintenance of order. Are you suggesting that the whole board needs to participate in that activity?
No, I want the chairperson as number 4 still to have authority, but the board as a whole, if they want to overrule the chairperson, can on the ruling if they don't agree with the chairperson.
In terms of trying to maintain order, that's what number 2 is reflecting.
Yes, and maintaining order is kind of a broad term.
Any thoughts, Mr.
Word.
Ferris?
Yeah. Scroll back just a little more. Thank you. Well, it's imposing conditions. is the the wording that we're talking about, to maintain order. So everybody's going to be looking at the maintenance of order in evaluating this. I think it would go, my interpretation of adding this wording, Mr. Dennis's board would have the say over the nature of those conditions.
Correct.
I mean, heaven forbid you have to recess or close a meeting because of an issue with order, and that requires typically a vote anyway from the whole board, right? So, but it would be for the question of maintaining of the conditions for attendance at the meeting. If the board, if you move that wording, and if the board thought that the conditions that the chair was imposing on whomever the person or persons were involved were too harsh, then your wording, I'm calling it your wording, the wording on number 4 could allow for the overruling of that.
That still gives the chairperson the right, and it gives the board
Yes,
recourse.
I view it as final say is, the board is going to say, we support the chair, whether it's Ms. Fletcher or whoever it is. We support the chair in this, or, Ms. Fletcher, I think, a board member can say, I think we need to all look at this condition, we need to all look at this time limit and make a decision. I view it as that way, but the regular conduct and flow of the meeting should be the chair's discretion until you get to these kinds of issues, if there's a dispute among the members.
So, having heard this discussion, Mr. Dennis, and thank you, Mr. Ferris, I think what we will do is, when it is time for us to take action on this item, that will be an opportunity for board members either to make a recommendation to amend or to approve it as is.
Yes, probably take up the amendment, of course, first, to include it as an additional sentence for paragraph 2, vote on that, and then you would vote on the policy as a
All right, we'll do that when we get to action, and I'll count on you, Mr. Harris, for your guidance. Muddle through that. Thank you, sir. All right, we we're going to move on then we're going to move ahead. Actually, we're going to juggle the agenda just slightly. We have quite a few people wishing to address the board. I believe some of them are students, some of the interest and respect for their time. We're going to move ahead with public. Oh, okay.
I got one, and she said I got my question answered, and she crossed her name out.
Okay, Mr. Williams. You sure were. Thank you.
So,
All right.
I think there was 9 or 10 athletes, students who wanted to speak, and I don't think they knew the correct procedure. They just they left, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. Let's move ahead then with Superintendent Report number 2, which is a construction update. Mr. Bohannon. Good afternoon. Good, thank you.
Included in your packet up on the board here to see is the construction update for November. Actually was sent you all before the original November 21st date. So some things have been adjusted, and I'll bring those to your attention. As with earlier reports, like I said, I'm going to kind of fly through the construction projects individually, and if you all have any questions about them, please slow me down or stop me. I do want to get quickly to the discussion of the district facility plan process and where we are with that as well, and give you all an update on that. But the general note I did want to include in there, as I've done in the past, is give you a kind of an update on where the construction industry is. There's a little snippet from an article that I found on ALM Globe Street that kind of basically summarizes a lot of what we've been dealing with in a very quick 2 or 3 sentence paragraph there. With the construction input costs for being up 16% from a year ago and 41% from the start of the pandemic. Supply chain issues have driven up lead times for many essential materials, which we've experienced on quite a few of our projects, including glass, curtain wall, roofing, metal, resins, which we experienced quite a bit out there at the East project, mineral wool and electronic components, which we're kind of experiencing now at the South Oldham High School fire alarm replacement project, electrical panels, air handling units, electrified door hardware, and card readers, which we're experiencing with some of our safety and security upgrades, have all been mired in delays of up to 10 times the normal delivery time, according to this article. Conditions are starting to improve a little bit, but we do still have quite a bit of, as you can tell with this list here, all parts of the building being delayed somewhat. Into the project overview here, the safety and security upgrades on the phase 3 portion of that work being done at the administrative annex and transportation department. The controllers and everything are in. The automatic gate controller is looking to be installed over winter break, and we'll be coordinating with the transportation department around their schedule this winter to do some of the pavement work around that gate. The athletic stadium field improvement project, bid package A, that was awarded in September 26th. Now that the football seasons are over for everybody, that work will be underway starting here in December. We've got the shop drawings approved for that, and I think they will return to the contractor this week, actually. Bid packages B, the South Oldham High School and Oldham County High School stadium upgrade. Pre-bid meeting, the board approved the construction documents of that this evening, and we'll have a pre-bid meeting on that on January 5th with bid opening on January 17th, and the bid award at the January board meeting. The turf project follows that same timeline as well.
Can I ask a quick question, Brent?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't remember at South High when they replaced the turf. I don't know, how much more time does it take putting in one versus replacing one?
Substantially more.
So when would that work be done at North and at OC?
The goal is to have all that work done before the fall, at the fall.
So would it
Pretty
affect?
much even maybe down to the Thursday before the first football game.
Okay, so would it affect their spring sports there or no?
The spring sports that are going to be impacted will be more of the track portions of it, and we've met with the athletic directors at each of the high schools, and that was actually one of the middle school coaches I was speaking with earlier to get her question answered about how when push comes to shove at that point, there will be certain points in time during that construction process that we will be impacting the track, and at some points we will be tearing up some tracks, and we've asked that each of the schools be kind of willing to work with us. There may be a point in time where we have to send all of our track teams to one track to practice, and everybody just be nice and cozy that week or two, and then we'll get back to competing with each other as soon as we get the tracks put back together. So yeah, we are coordinating that with each of the schools, and we will be sure that as we award the contract, the schedule of construction will be a little more solidified once we have a start date, stop date, and the impact on where that will be once the contract is awarded and we do have it approved by the board. And we will include all the middle schools in that conversation as well once we get to the point of signing the documents.
Okay, that leads me to my second part of that question, since you mentioned lanes and tearing up the track. Is there any way Oldham County High School can go to 8 lanes so that we can host regional tournaments there?
It is outside the scope of the board's approved for this project. It is limited to what physically we have in place right now. It's 257 feet from the front of the home side bleacher to the front of the visitor side bleacher. With the field in play, and the soccer field in play, with the 10-foot runoff, we'll have 200 feet of soccer space. We cannot come in on the track at all because where the bell is located, we're pretty close to the minimum amount of runoff space from the end zone. So basically, if you're catching a pass coming out of the end zone, you've got about 3 or 4 steps before you're at the fence. The limits that leaves us about 25 feet of track width on either side. And with the 42 inches minimum required by KHSA for their recommendation for a track width, we can get 6.5 lanes out of it, which is what we currently have. We have a little bit more than the runoff space on both sides. So no, without replacing and removing the visitor side bleachers completely, because we'll be halfway through that, there's not a lot of room to push those back at all because of the baseball fence. The visitor side would lose the accessible ramp, the accessible seating, and I think it was 2 rows of the first row seating. So anytime you pull back in that, you're going up in height. So the ramp that leads up to there currently would be twice as long and wide as it is. What I have asked the our design consultants to do is, as we move forward with this, if there is anything that a part of this project that we can improve that, we're going to improve it, and nothing that we do will further restrict it. So if there becomes a time where we have to replace bleachers on the visitor side, we can move them back out of the 2-lane circumference that has been requested to look into. None of the shot put and the discus areas that we're replacing will be placed outside of that also. We may have to shove the ticket booth a little bit just to get it out of the way, which means it might go towards the concession stand a little bit, not centered on the field, or out towards the street a little bit more. So, that's a long answer to your question.
So geography-wise and
We're pretty limited right now with the stadium that we have because of how close the home side and the visitor side is to the track. I mean, they're basically on the track. There isn't even a runoff lane to speak of on the outside on the home side.
So essentially, that would be substantial cost to move the home side, even if there's feasibility still has not been done about whether or not feasibility could happen to even move the home side even back. The other side is on the visitor side. There's underground utilities right behind the bleachers, so that you have and that would further increase the cost of that project. So we have not done that. The feasibility of that, which also gets into the cost of that, is something that we have not presented to the board, but we had discussions already about that. So also, if we did not move forward with the process, that we delay and it gets into another season. So I think that's, at the pleasure of the board, if you wanted to, really look at the feasibility and come back, because to me, we need to have data to be able to help drive those kinds of decisions if there wanted to be flexibility to pursue that. But there's lots of things to consider. It's a ripple effect.
So one of the advantages of having an 8 lanes to a track is we cannot host a regional tournament at the track facility. In our division, there's only one high school that can host it, and it's Assumption High School in Louisville. So a lot of travel back and forth. I don't know, the bleachers, the main bleachers, that front section, could they not be cut out, push the rest of the bleachers back, to gain you additional space?
But they're sitting on
the St. X High School had a similar issue. What they did is they reduced the lane width to the minimum.
To what?
I'm not sure what it was, but they had a special order of hurdles, so they would fit the lane width, and they gave them the ability to get 8 lanes in there. Okay. I'm just afraid
we're short
that,
about 6 feet on each side. Yeah. I don't think we could squeeze 42 inches down any further, but we'll take a further look at it.
Yeah, and that's all I'm asking. I'm just afraid that we're putting all this money in the facility.
Yeah, and like I said, we're going to not do anything that would further encroach on it. So that anything that we put out there now will not make it any further restricted. So that if the board so chose to redo the entire stadium, that the things that we're doing today will not negatively impact that.
So if I might, Mr. Kehoe, that's a good question, Ms. Hundley. We have, I think probably all or most of us have gotten an email or more from parents asking that question. This is a superintendent report again, and we are not taking action on this, but if we can allow the process to continue, Mr. Kehoe, and we can ask Mr. Bohannon to prepare some additional information in your free time, Mr. Bohannon. I say that with tongue in cheek, but we do need some more information if this is at all feasible. Mm-hmm. It will be our only high school without an 8-lane track. And so I understand the concern in that building.
And if we don't
and by
do
that
now,
community.
That high school will never get a new track.
But if it's not feasible and not realistic, we also will have to make that decision.
Let me just ask one quick thing about it. Is there a possibility of moving the track from the football stadium over by the soccer field, creating a track area over there separate from the football field?
Have you been to that soccer field?
The existing track field, the existing field 2 location?
Yeah.
I don't know, you'd be worse off there.
No.
I'm just throwing out some suggestions.
Maybe when they get rid of when they get the 329 bypass, then we can require some more
I'm
real
just
estate.
throwing out some suggestions.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, enough time and money, we can do whatever we want to do, right? But the feasibility of doing it in the existing conditions has kind of shoehorned us into the scope of work that we've got now. But, yeah, definitely, for next board meeting, I'll have a feasibility study for, if we were to, what it would take, and then how all of the things that would impact, like Dr. Radford said, I know just off the top of my head, we're going to be impacting the concession area, the bleachers on both sides. The press box at the visitor side probably will not be able to come back, and you'll be looking at more of a 3-row seating that lines the fence line. We can't expand it horizontally very much because of the field house access to the field. And then you have about 24 utilities running behind the visitor sidelines right now.
It's not an easy fix, but, and if you are able to compile that information before the
Yeah, put
next
it in
meeting,
my report
then
next
we will
meeting.
have an opportunity to review it.
Absolutely.
Anything else? You want to move ahead then, Mr. Bohannon, with your report?
Yes, we've met with the design team on the next stage of the Oldham County High School foundation roof repairs project. This, if you'll remember, this is replacement of the gym roof and the auditorium roof. This is 2 parts that were not replaced in the previous phase. There's also some exterior finishes that will be included in that project. And at the December meeting, I hope to have some visuals for you all on the progress of that design. The fieldhouse renovation project at South Oldham High School, the punch list is nearing complete there, and we're kind of continuing through the closeout process of that. Major renovations I spoke a little bit about earlier with the fire alarm upgrades. The gym and auditorium overhead wiring were completed over fall break, and the device installation is still pending a little bit of supply chain delays, but I think that we're getting down to the end of those delays. That work is going on in the evenings and weekends right now. The Oldham County Preschool expansion and roof replacement, Ms. Caston and the facilities department will be getting together again this week or beginning in part of next week, and we'll have education specifications for the board in December to review the needs at that location. East Oldham Middle School, work is substantially complete. Certificate of occupancy was received on October 10th. The punch work and commissioning is ongoing, but the work that was held up for the fall break period has all been completed and tested and is underway. And Mr. Robson and I installed some of the lab equipment over fall break and are finalizing that too. So we've got a lot of neat things going on in that building, and a couple more parts and pieces, and they should have it up and running for the kiddos. The emergency boiler replacement, that's kind of a revision that the board had on the consent item today. Are there any questions about that? Or just it's kind of self-explanatory. We needed to replace the boiler, we did. Oldham County High School HVAC upgrades, these are the upgrades in the boiler room, kind of around that boiler replacement. The site accessibility and elementary school site improvements, that pre-bid we had on November 17th, and that will bid on December 6th, and the recommendation will come to the board for December 12th for the site improvements at Centerfield, Buckner, Kenwood, and Camden Station. The Grange Elementary School is on hold pending DFP approval. The paving project was completed over the fall break, actually just prior to the fall break, so that project's complete. Some carpet replacement took place at Buckner and Harmony over the break. We've got some work that we're scheduling at South Oldham High School, and hopefully we can get some carpet replacement at Buckner Alternative also during the winter break. The Liberty Asbestos Abatement and Demolition Project, the topographic survey has been received on that. The bid documents are being developed by the civil engineer and landscape architect on that. Field 2 renovations, this project we're a little bit ahead of the approval process on that, so hope to have some pretty pictures and some eye candy coming to y'all here in the next month on that. But we are kind of on hold on that project until the district facility plan gets approved as well. And for reference, those are the soccer fields at Oldham County High School, the soccer field at North Oldham High School, and the practice facility or the practice field at South Oak High School. Arvin emergency fluid cooler replacement, that work took place. Oldham County toilet partition replacement is scheduled to be done over the winter break. ECS improvements at South Oldham High School
So Ms.
continue.
Husley has a question. Mr.
We've got some
Bohan.
sidewalk, oh,
Whoa,
sorry.
whoa, whoa, back to number 6.
As soon as I get them done at OCMS, I'm going over South Oldham Middle. Is that a
Okay,
question?
yes,
Okay. I've actually already got them out there for pricing.
okay.
I got you.
I'm just asking, it's not on there, I'm just asking.
South Oldham High School, ECS improvements, we've got some concrete work that we're going to install there, and once we get that in place, we'll have a secondary means of egress from that door, and we can look at installing a operable gate at that location as well.
Oh, can I ask another question, sorry? Sorry, I'm just
Okay, but this is the last
asking.
one.
I'm just asking, when Stephanie said $148,000 for batting cages, was that the batting cages and the storage building?
Yes, it was not just the
Okay, I was
cage.
gonna say, I don't know what kind of batting cages.
And
we
there's-
built for
there's some site work as well.
$148,000. Okay, thank you. I just want a clarification on that.
No problem. And speaking of that project, a little bit more of an update on that. That roof is actually installed in place, so they are dried in now, and we'll start painting that interior of that building here soon. And hopefully within the next, I think, 2 weeks, have the net hung as well. So we're kind of getting to the end of that project. We got some work going on, some interior casework going on at Camden that we're getting proposals to do in December.
Do you have any questions on that, Ms. Hundley? JK.
If I do, I'll ask.
Absolutely, that's what I'm here for. Safety and security upgrades at various high schools. The Halo sensors were installed over the fall break. The testing was completed on the 11th, and I think that all of your high school administrators will tell you that they are working. The punch work process, we completed that last Wednesday. We had this contractor out and finished up a few devices that were not syncing up, so those are up and operational now. The ceiling baffles that we're installing in the classrooms and labs at the Arvin Education Center are scheduled to take place over winter break as well, and those should be shipped in early December. And the North Oldham High School backstop was installed, and that work's been complete. Okay, any questions about any of the rest of those?
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Bohannon.
Okay, the district facility planning process. We have received our comments back from KD. Last time we were together, and I spoke with you, giving you kind of an update on where we were to date, and that we had sent off the initial draft to KD for their comments. We have received their comments back at the end of last week, or right before the holiday. So we will be going to public forum number 3, and the LPC meeting is Wednesday, the 30th. So pending that, we should come out of that meeting, hopefully we can come out of that meeting with a final draft. The final draft will come to the board in December for the December board meeting. At that point, the board will have the option to approve that as is written and send it to public hearing. Then we'll have to go through the public hearing process. It's kind of outlined there in front of you. If the board at that time would like to make any revisions to it, then we'll have to go back to an LPC meeting and then kind of go through that process again. So really, it's going to set us back about a month. So I did want to give you all the board the opportunity tonight to maybe give us a preview of the public expression or the public forum that we have tomorrow. If there's anything that you all would like me, if you can't make it to the public forum and LPC meeting, which is at Centerfield at 5:30 on Wednesday, if there's anything that you would like me to relay to the LPC.
Any concerns, board members? Mr. Dodson?
Yeah, I got a big one. It's been on the list for a long time. We got a great technical school at Arvin Center. It did not get where it was at without the new building. We've got a great CAPA program here, but this building is shot, totally shot. We got one room we cannot use. We got a beam that's cracked. We're always putting money into this building and more money in this building, and we might as well just flush it down the drain. My suggestion is to move the Art Center, or CAPA, or whatever you want to call it, up on the list and replace the whole building with a new Art Center. And do it the right way Because this thing's gonna grow, and it's gonna be as big as Arvin and what have you. If we don't have facilities, we can close part of our doors right now, because we're not gonna have the rooms to put the kids in.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Dodson.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Kehoe.
That's a good point, what Mr. Dodson said, and Matt Watkins, I see you back there. I'm sure the Arvin Center would grow if you had a building to house different programs,
Certainly try.
and staff as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I want to, I think we have talked before, you and I and everyone, about the merge of the Art Center, Arvin Center maybe, possibly. I'm not sure. But there's a couple other items I wanted to address.
Yes, sir.
At Oldham County High School. The agricultural building and the greenhouse, could that be looked at as well? Clean that up?
Yes, sir. What would you have in mind?
Yeah, just something for the program. I mean, you write about Ed. And the welding shop there next to the daycare. I think that building could probably be eliminated. Just
Okay.
cleaning of the campus.
I think that all of our high schools are kind of going through looking into what their CTE programs are going to entail in the future. I think that would be a good opportunity to look at how we're currently using the ag building there in the greenhouse and what that might look like in the future, and kind of incorporate where they see their CTE programs growing to be housed in that as well. So absolutely, thank you.
And updates on the Faulkner Alternative Project. Can you give us any updates? Is that going to happen?
It's on there. It's on the plan.
It's on the plan.
Yes.
And I can add one more thing about the Art Center. We need to keep this building working while we're building a new building. We can't just piecemeal a new building in with this building and keep the staff, keep the kids, and everybody moving. I'm talking about a whole new structure from ground up for the Art Center.
Thank you. Ms. Huntley.
We also look at I'm on the LPC and I'm happy to throw this in Wednesday, but could we consider maybe replacing the auditorium at SOHS with a standalone that isn't a shared gym auditorium space?
Yes, thank you. We've had a conversation with the school about that, and I think that would be a good addition to the plan.
Thank you.
Mr. Dennis, anything?
Oh, I got you earlier.
All right. Ms. Fletcher?
All right, no, I'm good.
All right.
Thank you.
Taking
Thank you for your
time.
consideration of all those requests, and I know you will examine.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll put those comments in as public comments, and then we actually have our public forum before the meeting tomorrow, before our LPC, where in the past we've done them following it. So we'll be able to get that in front of the LPC. I keep saying tomorrow, but it's Wednesday.
And it is a committee, so I do believe we need to let the committee process work.
We got some strong voices on there.
Thank you, Ms. Huntley, for serving on LPC.
Say that meeting's Wednesday,
Wednesday,
Centerfield.
5:30 Centerfield, yes, sir.
Ms. Huntley, one more
I won't
question.
At the December meeting, can we get an update on South Oldham High School and timeline on what's next? And
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's some things on that district facility plan that will help us change some things on that. But other than that, yeah, we met, I don't know, it's been a couple weeks, but I've got a timeline that we can share before the
We
break.
met before fall break with South
Yeah.
High School Administration.
I think parents would like to hear that.
Absolutely.
I just really appreciate your all's input, as Mr. Lohan and I have discussed this in terms of facilities and what priorities you might have, so that way we can share this with the LPC, and so that way we can have a good plan to present to the board for approval, so that we can be efficient with our time. One thing I would like to just add for, we have several folks here in the audience, and for all of us as board members, just a reminder, as we talk about facilities, whether it's new projects, renovations, or new construction, those monies are not, we cannot use those for teacher salaries. We cannot use those for instructional materials. We're really working hard to maximize what we can do to be able to support our students. And this is, again, going towards student experience, because school does not stop after 4 o'clock, and the district facility plan will also speak to how we can support student learning through the best facilities we can provide within our county.
Thank you, Superintendent. We do have some additional latitude here, thanks to the legislature. So we are trying to maximize this time frame and get some of those other projects completed. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bohannon. We are ready for Superintendent Report number 3, Deputy Superintendent, Ms. Six. Good evening.
Hi. I'm gonna try. Can you hear over there? I know I was struggling to hear, but I'm getting old, so.
No, it's the mic.
Okay. We have our priorities graphic, if we could get that up on the screen. And that's what I come up and report about every month, but my theme for the evening is everything's related to everything, right? So lots of connections to our 4 priorities: world-class learning opportunities. You heard Dr. Smith and Ms. Whitaker discuss our state assessment results and the ways that we are supporting our schools who have been identified for targeted support. Some work we're doing with active committees. We have 8 very active work groups who are dedicated to these priorities. But I'll begin with culture and climate tonight. And the kids were a perfect real-life example of how they're working to strengthen relationships in their own schools and build communities. But as a district office, we are committed to seeking feedback from our employees to strengthen our relationships and improve communication. So we exist at central office to serve our students and serve our schools. And since our last meeting, we sought and received some feedback from several employees. And I just asked them, describe our district culture in 3 words or phrases. And sometimes I hear back, well, what if it's not good? Tell me anyway. We want to know. The leadership team, we desire to know what you think so we can move forward. We want to be responsive. So tonight, I asked 3 folks, and it's kind of just like a temperature check, a monthly temperature check. But one person said supportive, encouraging, empowering, trusted, and they added, I haven't always felt that way, but I've seen big improvements. For the long term, we need a vision for our district. I know we're working on that, but we all need something to center all of us. I really think we're finally making positive strides and gains, and I'm excited. So I was glad to hear about that. The next person responded with stressed, undervalued, and underprioritized. And so I think we have to acknowledge those feelings. They're out there. The third person said progressing, but what if the other 2 words aren't good? And I said, we need to know, so feel safe to share. We do want to understand their perspective. And so they added 2 words, disconnected and floundering. But they explained. We are in a pivotal year for our district to maintain what we've always been, the best. So this is an important time. And I'll finish and then I'll give you my analogy. We can't keep up with salaries, and one of our best assets, the teachers, need more money. If we can't give them the money, we've got to think way outside the box to make this an attractive place to work and the best place for kids to learn. And that's our current reality. And so we know that. And I kind of feel like we're in the clouds, like we've taken the plane off and we're in the clouds. And after this year, we could break through that barrier and see the sun on some things we can do. But I feel like in the next 2 months, you're going to hear the recommendations from the Budget Committee and what they want to present to you to approve for next year for our teachers. They are already beginning to hear what other surrounding districts are doing, and so we need to present that to you and have you make some decisions about those things. But everything's related to everything. So I shared last year on the budget process, when you approve raises for this school year, you asked the board, you asked central office folks and our stakeholders to work diligently to sustain the raises and be able to give more. And that's a balance.
Because how much do we, if someone over here is feeling undervalued and under-prioritized, then how much can we really afford to take away from them to be able to give more? And so it is a delicate balance that we're going to ask you to make decisions about. We don't want to take away staff, but at the same time, we realize, as our finance director said, a lot of our budget goes to personnel. So we're going to have to figure out what to do, what will make the most difference. But in the next 2 months, you'll be hearing from the budget committee. So that's that priority. On the strategic planning piece, and someone mentioned vision. We need the vision. We need what will center us. So last month you heard about our discovery sessions. We felt like they were very successful. We're meeting with the principals this week so that they can see what their students, the high school students, shared about their schools. This month we wanted to update you on the completion of our parent surveys. Those were completed right before Thanksgiving break, and we had 3,718 responses from parents and the Studer Group. They were very impressed with that number. Results are being compiled, and so I think those reports will be available into December, early January for board members, and then we'll share them with everyone. But my favorite question on that survey was, who would you like to recognize for being supportive of your student or family? And we had 1,982 people take the time to write something about someone who meant something to their child or to their family, and I can't wait to share those results with our employees. I think that'll be a real positive thing for them. But rolling out this week, the links for employees and students in grades 6 through 12, and I think we have those in the packet. There are the questions. The employee experience survey, and then also in your packet, the student experience survey. The first 10 questions are about the school experience, and questions 11 through 20 really will inform the district as an organization. So that's what we want folks to realize. And I think, Brent, are you meeting with some of the principals to discuss this rollout after the meeting?
Yeah, real quick.
Okay. So that's rolling out this week, but we really want to push for high participation rates, because the more we hear from people, the stronger our mission and vision and goals will be. Do you want to add something about any of these questions? Or
I just remind the board, the principals have heard, district leaders have heard me say this, that, years ago, 25 years ago when I started teaching, it was the expectation is when I remember when I signed my contract, the unspoken expectation is to, okay, show your value, demonstrate your worth to the school district. And so now as the organizations that thrive coming out of this pandemic that we all have lived through, and all the things it's challenged us with, the organizations that thrive, public or private, will be those that prove themselves to the employees that work in those organizations. And the way that you do that is to be able to have data, to be able to understand where your strengths are, where your opportunities are to improve, and where your blind spots are. And we hope that we have modeled that at the district level, so that way we know that our employees and our principals can help lead the way, and our district leaders can help lead the way, that we really want to act upon those things that are most important, that's going to help us elevate our district, in addition to anything that we do to salaries.
do you have any questions for me about any of the priorities? Or thank you, Ms. Six. Questions or comments? Mr. Keto.
I do. So Charlotte and Jason, you also mentioned this about the funding for teacher salaries, and you mentioned it's going to come out soon, and some proposals that's going to be there. Again, we're tasked with the county government not having enough businesses and things. And then we were recently made aware that Jefferson County is going to actively recruit our teachers in surrounding counties. I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you like to comment on Dr. Polio's comment this week?
You don't want me to.
Chief.
I know that comments were made. You know, I would put our school district up against any school district. Our parents and our community. Our school district is only as good as the parents, the community that we have, and then the staff that we have working in those buildings. We have the best You go into our schools, as you just heard Ms. Six talk about, we met with 90 high school students. They're hungry. There are some of the, I mean, our students I would put up against anyone. And I would say that our school district is the best place to work because of the kids and the families that we serve, point blank. So I would, say that we will take anyone from any school district who wants to meet that to serve our parents and our students and our community. That that honestly, that didn't. Some of those comments that I've heard across doesn't sit very well with me. Because we really, but we're on the right track and on the right path, but we can only get there by doing some things and to drive our decisions and how we do that. And data is how we do that, by getting voice. I do have one other thing I'd like to share with the board, and Ms. Six, thank you for sharing this. I wanted to also pinpoint or point out in your packet, these are things that we talk about with our leaders, and it's really to keep us grounded. I just want to briefly touch on at the last admin staff meeting, there are 9 things we talked about what the best businesses and sports do. And I just want to draw your attention to those things. I won't read all of this to you, but I want to just highlight those things. 1, the best know what they want. As a school district, as an organization, what is it that we want? And we're on the path to be able to create that when we think about our plan. The best build a great culture, that they listen to the employees and the experience and the service that they are providing. The best do ordinary things better than everyone else. And that's something, that's systems, that is habits and routines. The best are mentally stronger. I read that, I think about the people that are in front of me and to my left and to my right. We have mentally strong, tough people. That's an asset. The best overcome the fear of failure. You cannot move forward if you don't take strategic risks to be able to elevate an organization, and that's our school district. The best build great relationships and teams. The best transform negativity. How do you deal with negativity? Because negativity can pull the energy out of a room and out of a person, but you have to be able to reframe that and be able to do that together. The more of us that do that, the better we can be in a good place, which does not mean that we gloss over problems. The best think like rookies and overcome the curse of experience. The best think like rookies. The best are hungry. The best do not stay with mediocre. They are hungry to improve. And number 9, the best care more. Man, it just has chills going up and down my back as I read that, as I look across this room here tonight. And we have that in our district. But to be able to get to the next steps, we have to be able to row our boat in the same direction.
Thank you, Superintendent, and thank you, Ms. Six. We're going to move ahead. Superintendent, report number 4, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to invite Mr. Michael Williams to come forward and share with you about major breaks for the FY24 calendar.
And as Mr. Williams joins us, we find ourselves in a position to identify another board member to serve on the calendar committee. And I've asked Mr. Dodson, and he has agreed to do that for you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So before you, let me set the picture first. The calendar committee that set the calendar for this current school year also sets the major breaks for the year coming before that, or after that. The committee hit a snag in it struggled to identify what winter break should look like. I tried multiple times with the committee to sort of coax them along and see if they could agree on something, and they were continually stuck on what does it look like. And so being presented to you all tonight is the major breaks identified. Fall break, everyone agreed on, and it would be the 23rd to the 27th of October. And then spring break would be the first week of April, so it would be the 1st through the 5th. So the two differences in the calendar as the committee worked for this would be how winter break falls. And it would be either dividing it on a Tuesday, like Tuesday would be the last day of school, so it would be Tuesday the 20th or 19th would be the last day of school, and then students would be out from the 20th until at least the 2nd of January. That was one option, and then the other option actually pushed us to the last day of school would be the 22nd, which is the Friday right before Christmas, and then we would be out until ostensibly the 5th, through the 5th of January, which bring us back on the 8th of January. That is it in a nutshell. Ultimately, it is the board's calendar, and this will then guide the calendar committee moving forward once you make your final decision.
I'm going to call for some questions or concerns here in just a second. The challenge with the calendar for the 23-24 school year is that Christmas falls on a Monday. And we have not found ourselves in that position for a long time. If we start the break on the 25th, as this major break 1 suggests, our families and staff will start their break on the 23rd, Saturday the 23rd, basically the weekend before Christmas. And then this calendar, are they on the screen? Also suggests, would
Option 2
also,
is on the screen right now.
well, the rest of option 1 is that we would return to school in that option 1 on Monday the 8th of January, it looks like, Mr. Williams. So, that's break 1. Break 2 would start, as Michael said, we would go to school on the 18th and 19th, and we would start our break on the 20th, the Wednesday before Christmas. And we would return to school on the 3rd.
Third.
My glasses broke when I started this meeting, so I'm struggling a little bit. But we would return to school on the 3rd of January. So those are the two proposals from our calendar committee. I said this earlier in the evening. I really like for the board to honor the work of committees. So let me ask how the board feels, if you have any feelings about option 1 or 2. Mr. Dodson.
The options where you come back on the 8th of January, I have a big problem with that because a lot of parents are off during Christmas break and they gotta get back the day after New Year's. And their kids will still be out of school. And my suggestion is go like the 20th or whatever date that is and come back on the 2nd.
So you're in support of the major breaks 1?
Yeah, because
No,
parents.
major breaks. Oh, major breaks 2. Thank you, Mr. Dodson. Other questions or comments on the calendar, Ms. Hundley?
I had a lot of feedback from teachers that they did not like not having 2 full weeks and 3 weekends. And
That's always been the comments that the committee has gotten, and we've always tried to honor that.
And also too, the comments that I got with splitting it and starting it on a Wednesday was that in the past when that happened, it is very disruptive to the class because parents will take the kids out the 2 days before or the 2 days after, and it's never the same.
Correct.
So you're basically messing with 4 days of instruction. From a parent standpoint, I don't think any of us want to get out on Friday and have Christmas on Monday. I don't know about the rest of the parents in here, but that's crappy to me. Also too, for working parents, I think it'd be easier to have the week leading up to Christmas and the week between Christmas and New Year's off instead. And I would rather go another day in May and have an extra day of Christmas break on a calendar that makes sense than try to wonky something together to try to make sense, personally. And if we're trying to make teachers happy, then I feel like we can agree on the other breaks and maybe revisit Christmas break.
During the calendar committee for this year.
Well, again, based on Mr. Dodson's concern, if we give our families the whole week before Christmas, that presents working parents with a different kind of a challenge. So, other board members have any thoughts, questions, concerns? I would suggest then, Mr. Williams, that we perhaps, and I need to hear this from the board, we continue the discussion on the December break. but approve the calendar so that our families will have access to the spring and fall break dates. And then we are gonna have to put our heads together.
Well, and I will have, the calendar committee will be coming back around to actually work on the 23-24 actual calendar. So, I mean, I can give you updates on what the committee has at that point.
Based on the discussion that you just
Correct.
heard, and maybe the calendar committee can consider our concerns before we're asked to take action on that. So this is a super report, but I think we're going to take action on the calendar, are we not?
Yes, later on.
On the break, so,
I'll do the motion.
okay, thank you, Ms.
Yeah.
Hundley. All right, so
Okay.
we appreciate the work of the calendar committee. I'm going to take this opportunity to thank Mrs. Nykerk, who served on the calendar committee as the board representative. And we will look forward to your next report from them. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Superintendent, report number 5, sir.
Yes, I'd just draw your attention to what's presented in your packet about the superintendent IOP, around those standards that are strategic leadership, instructional leadership, cultural, human resource, managerial, collaboration, and influential leadership. We just, as you've heard tonight, we've really been trying to work really hard on not just what our schools are doing day to day with supporting students and families with learning, but also strategic leadership. The other piece that is on my next steps is to connect with our state legislators as we head into a new session to make sure that we are advocating for our school district and to be the very best that we can be for when it comes to funding and support, because our profession in public education, we need to do all we can to elevate that and work to support our school district and our community.
Thank you, Superintendent. Just as an informational item, Mr. Dennis, the board, every board in Kentucky is required to conduct an evaluation of the superintendent in June, July. So, and it's based on these 7 criteria. So this process really gives us information to use to evaluate the superintendent, and he will build on that every month for us.
Thank you.
I just noticed in these pictures that the superintendent supplied, provided under influential leadership. There's a picture of a classroom at North High. I don't know what class you visited, but right there is the student we recognized tonight. So I thought that was cool. All right. I deviate. Let's return to the agenda. And we're going to start taking action. We have enclosure G, Superintendent.
Yes, consider approval of early graduation and hardship requests.
Any questions or comments? Your recommendation, sir.
Recommend to approve.
Motion to approve, please. Made by Mr. Kehoe, seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor, and that's 5-0. Action item H, sir.
Yes, consider approval of the FY24 major breaks with the calendar as we have discussed.
All right. I'm going to call for your recommendation, sir.
Based upon our conversation from the board, I would recommend that the board will approve fall break and spring break for FY24.
All right, that works. So, you've heard the recommendation. Motion to approve, please. Made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor, and that's 5-0. Thank you, sir.
So can we just read one more time? So because we've gotten so many questions, fall break will be October 23rd to 27th, 2023. And spring break will be April 1st to April 5th, 2024.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I
Thank
just
you.
want to,
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Madam Chair, there was a typo on the years in 2022.
Good catch, Mr. Kehoe. We will make that correction. We are ready for action item I, sir.
Yes, consider approval of policy revisions for FY23 as presented in superintendent.
All right, so we had some discussion earlier about this. I'm going to first called for, Mr. Ferris, I'm looking at you. We had a suggestion, board members. Your recommendation is to approve the policy as it stands. So before I take action on that, would you like to make a recommendation for?
I do, I recommend we amend it to add the board as a whole shall have the final decision as to the appropriateness of all the rulings to item number 2.
All right, so,
So that would be in the form of a motion.
and that's what Mr. Dennis is making the motion.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
is there a, you heard Joe make the motion. Is there a second to the motion? I'm stumbling.
Also, yeah, you.
Okay, Ms. Hundley is going to second that motion. Let me take action on that first. All those in favor of that recommendation is going to be 5-0. And now with that additional, that addition to the policy, superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. I would recommend that the board approve the policy as amended by this most recent action of the board.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Ferris. And board members.
Can I do one more thing? Sorry. It's
Yes.
not on the agenda, but could we go ahead on the December meeting and push it back to 5 o'clock? I've had some questions about moving meetings, pushing the meeting times back, and it's hard for me to get here at 4:30. And I'm just wondering if we can move the December meeting back to 5, and then in January when.
We can do that. We have to call that a special call meeting, I think, if we make any changes to it. And we can do that without doing that here.
Okay.
All right. Board members, remember to review the 2 reports at the conclusion of our agenda, which are the monthly energy usage and the preschool report. And at this time, we need to go into executive session. Mr. Dodson, I'm going to ask the vice chair to read that ruling on going into executive session.
The board needs to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101C to discuss litigation preparation. The public disclosure of which would jeopardize the board's position pursuant to KRS 61.8101F. Discussions which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee. 1 litigation, a matter pertaining to alleged student injuries. 1 special education matter. 1 employment claim matter. 1 Title IX complaint. 1 First Amendment litigation matter, a personal matter, and pending hearing related thereto.
So your recommendations, Superintendent?
Yes, recommend that we move to executive session.
Motion to go into executive session made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Kehoe. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Thank you all.